Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the Cyber Gizmo, I'm going to be looking at Proxmox 8, which somehow got lost in the shuffle at the end of June. I have no idea why. Yes, I do actually. Proxmox 8.0 was released on June the 22nd of 2023. There are some new features, of course, in this new release. The reason it's a major release is because Debian is bumped. It's now based on Debian Bookworm or Debian 12. However, they're not using the stock Debian kernel. Instead, they're using the 6.2 kernel, which if you remember back in 7.04, they had an option to install the 6.2 kernel, so this is actually making it the default now. So that's good. KMU has also been upgraded to 8.0.2. Lexi is still the same version, it's 5.02. ZFS got a bit of a bump, it's 2.1.12. And Ceph Quincy has a patch update. This is 17.2.6. So one of the things that Proxmox did was they added a new text-based installer interface so that older machines that can't support the graphical user interface, which is the default way to install Proxmox, can still get in and use it. It looks a lot like a standard Debian install. There's a way that you can do a more finer grained ACL based on your network and your users that are coming in, so which is kind of nice. Also, there's the ability to add access realms and to perform sync jobs. This is primarily designed to support updating LDAPs from Active Directory. So if you want to be able to pull in and update from the Active Directory, your user list or group list, you can do that on whatever periodic basis you want to do it. I think it goes from 30 minutes, and then you can pick upwards on the menu. There's also a new default CPU type for virtual machines. This is called x86-64 v2 AES. That brings in a bunch of Intel support features so that now your virtual CPUs have support for some of the latest things that are offered in the newer Intel CPUs. Now, one of the things I noticed I generally don't do a migration. I don't use the migration script. Generally, I nuke and pave. But one of the things I noticed was when I went to restore from my older 7.0 backups over to 8 is that I had a failure on startup because the virtual CPU type no longer existed. I think they were Macs, but I'm not sure. But you'll need to check if you're doing it the way I'm doing it. You'll need to check to see if your host IDs and CPU types are supported and still in 8 because they have gotten rid of some of the older ones. So all I had to do was change it to that, and it came up fine and worked. There's also resource mappings now that you can provide between PCIe or USB devices, and you can map those to specific nodes in Proxmox BE cluster. There's an improved dark color theme. The reason for it is there was some feedback from some of the users of Proxmox that didn't quite like the new one, so they made some tweaks and according to what the user community wanted to do. And that just once again proves that Proxmox is also a company that listens to their users. And in this day and age, that's getting to be a rare thing. Also, there's initial support for NetBSD and OpenBSD in this version of Proxmox. And of course, they have supported FreeBSD on it in the past because I've run it there. Also, there's improved backup performance. Now, when I was doing my restore off of the old backups that I had created, I didn't notice any performance improvement until the next weekend when I was testing the backups to make sure that the restore went okay. It was a lot faster, and the reason for that is they're using Z standard as the compression algorithm to do that, which is more efficient than the one previously being used. So yeah, it has improved the performance quite a bit. There's two-factor authentication for TOTP that's been added to Proxmox. And of course, Proxmox also had YubiKey, and I don't know if WebAuthn, I should say, was something new. And the last one I didn't quite notice it, but I did notice it is there. Which is passkey, by the way. If you want to use passkey, they recommend that you make sure your host has a valid SSL certificate. So you'll need to go and do a Let's Encrypt and get a valid cert down for your host. But you can protect with two-factor authentication, or you can use YubiKey, OTP, if you prefer, which is in there as well. Now, I didn't use the PBE 7 to 8, but I understand that they have migrated some of the error checking handling up front so that you don't have to wait till it gets all the way to the end to find out that it blew up somewhere along the way. So that's always a time saver. I mean, if you got something that's not going to migrate and you got to change it, then better to do it up front than have to wait, 20, 30 minutes before you find out you got a problem. What do I think of Proxmox 8.0? I mean, it's faster. It definitely is faster. I did run into a couple of problems, however. One is still having issues, at least I am, with getting it to boot on a secured boot Linux distro. I was working with Clear Linux to try to get that to do a secured boot, which it requires, and no go. I'll probably need to play around with it, do some more reading, figure out what's going on, and then maybe ask some questions to some other people on how to do it. But obviously what worked before doesn't work now. Or I did go and test it on hardware, and it failed there too. So it could be the problem isn't Proxmox. It could be the problem is Clear Linux. So anyway, that's all I had for today. I want to take this time to thank my Patreons and my channel members. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. That's all I had for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please like and subscribe. Hope to see you all again in the next one. Bye for now.